The minute I started playing the first track, I was absolutely riveted. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Molly, and in this video I'm going to be going over my top 10 favorite albums of the year 2021. So we are getting to that time of year now where everyone starts doing these year-end favorites lists, and I figured I would just kind of add my little opinion on the internet and give my top 10 favorite albums of the year. Again, this list is totally subjective. It's just based on my personal taste in music, and I obviously could not listen to every single album that came out in 2021, so I'm sure there's a lot I'm overlooking here. But yeah, without further ado, let's dive right on into my top 10 albums of 2021. Coming in at number 10, we have Cinema by the Marías. This one is great. It's just a really kind of dreamy, atmospheric pop album that is just very relaxing to listen to. It fuses a lot of entertaining, more upbeat sounds with this very cinematic, like I said, relaxing, dreamy atmosphere. All I Really Want Is You, To Say Hello, Calling You Back, those are definitely some of my favorite tracks on it, and it's just a great listen. I really enjoy it from start to finish. At number 9, we have Eternal Blue by Spiritbox. This is the band's debut album, and it's crazy good in my opinion. For a debut album especially, Spiritbox just brings the sound and the intensity on this album, yet they have really melodic, beautiful moments infused on there too. I don't think it is the most cohesive album with its sound, but it is absolutely solid. There are some amazing tracks on here, some great gems. The opening track, Sunkiller, is so good. It's just an amazing album opener. It brings the energy. And the tracks Silk in the Strings and Circle With Me are also absolute standouts. There's just some fantastic tracks on this album, and what a debut for Spiritbox. I think it's a great album. At number 8, I have picked Screen Violence by CHVRCHES. This album, when I first heard it when it was released, I really got into it quick. I loved all of the tracks on it. And then I will admit it kind of faded for me. After the first maybe week this album was out, I kind of stopped going back to it. But then for the purpose of this video, I went back and re-listened to it, and I'm like, every single track on this album is fantastic. I don't know why I kind of got out of listening to it, because every track is great. I think it's a very well put together, well thought out album. I think my favorites are How Not to Drown and Violent Delights and Final Girl. I think those are probably my top 3, but like I said, every single track on this album is really good in my opinion. Up next, coming in at number 7, we have Bloodmoon 1 by Converge and Chelsea Wolfe. Now this album, it was released a little bit later in 2021, so I've had a little bit less time to kind of really delve into it and listen to it a lot, but from the times I have given this album a listen to, it is really good. It is super dark and atmospheric, almost witchy sounding. There's like a very strong, haunted, kind of Halloween vibe to it, and in general that's kind of Chelsea Wolfe's sound, but this collaboration between her and Converge just works great in my opinion. There's not really one track that really draws me in more than the others, but the album as a whole, it's seamless. It's so well put together, well thought out, and I was like, how can I not include this album on my year-end list? Even though there's not necessarily a standout track or anything on it, it's just such a well-constructed album, I had to include it. Coming in at number 6, I have picked Smiling with No Teeth by Genesis Owusu. This album is so much fun to listen to. I have a smile on my face every time I listen to it. It is just riddled with different genres and sounds. It's kind of like a hip-hop album at times, but it's not hip-hop at all at other portions. I don't really know exactly what genre this album is. It's just fun. It's so entertaining. I really like the tracks Centerfold and Don't Need You, and I think my favorite actually is the last track, Bye Bye. Just fantastic songs on this album. I just like all of the sounds going on, playing around with different genres. It's just such an entertaining album, and I had to pick it for one of the ones on my list. Alright, so now we're getting down to the top 5 albums of the year. Coming in at number 5, I have picked Witness by VOLA. This is, again, a newer album for me. I didn't know about this one until, I think, November of 2021, so I've had a little bit less time to really go through and listen to it. The times I have heard it, I absolutely love it. I think it's just such a well-crafted album, and every track is really good. The opening track, Straight Lines, I think is my favorite, but every song on this album just absolutely brings such this amazing fusion of metal, but they incorporate electronic stuff, a lot of melodic parts as well. Even the track These Black Claws infuses some hip-hop elements. It's really cool. There's just a lot of sounds going on with this album, yet it is so cohesive and streamlined. I think it's great. At number 4, I have picked Glow On by Turnstile. This one reminds me of Smiling with No Teeth by Genesis Owusu in how fun it is and how playful it is and experimental it is with its sound. There's just a lot of fusions of genres. There are so many fantastic tracks on this album, absolutely no skips. I think my favorites are probably Holiday and Fly Again, but I just like this whole album from start to finish. Alright, moving into my top 3 albums of 2021 now. At number 3, I have picked Blue Weekend by Wolfe. I absolutely loved this album when it first came out. I was obsessed with it. I listened to it so many times. I don't even know how many times. And I can honestly say my obsession for this album didn't really diminish at all throughout 2021. Every track on it just brings a certain energy, a certain sound that makes it stand out, but yet as an album, all of these tracks work together really seamlessly, and I just think it's really well put together. I think some of my favorite tracks from it are Lipstick on the Glass, Feeling Myself, and The Last Man on Earth. I think those are my top 3, but you can't go wrong with any track on Blue Weekend in my opinion. Coming in at number 2, I have picked The Greatest Mistake of My Life by Holding Absence. This album is absolutely beautiful. It fuses so much energy and intensity at times with really beautiful melodic portions too. And I think just the blend of those two elements, they do so well on this album. It's very emotionally impactful too. It's very touching to listen to. I think my favorite tracks are probably Afterlife and Morning Song and In Circles. I think those are like my top 3, but the whole album is fantastic in my opinion. Alright, so now we're down to my number 1 pick for my favorite album of 2021, and this one is going to be And Again Into the Light by Panopticon. This album really surprised me. I got a random YouTube comment from someone saying I had to listen to this album, that it was really good, and so I sat down at my computer to give it a listen, and the minute I started playing the first track, I was absolutely riveted. I was glued to my seat through the whole album from start to finish. The way that this album just makes you feel, the sound of it, the fusion of different elements, it's just nearly perfect. I can't really describe it any other way. It's just basically a perfect album. Every single track too works great. It's kind of hard to pick a favorite for that reason because I think you just have to listen to the whole album. But I think Dead Loons is probably my favorite track. Also the closing song, No Hope, is also definitely a favorite. But the whole album, like I said, is just so cohesive. It just works fantastically well. And that's why I picked And Again Into the Light by Panopticon as my number 1 album of 2021. So there you have it. That is my completed list of my favorite albums of 2021. This year for music I thought was great, and there were definitely some fantastic albums that came out. And like I said at the start of this video, I definitely did not listen to every single album that came out in 2021, so I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff I'm overlooking that I just haven't heard. But yeah, this is my personal top 10. Let me know what you thought. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.